I know that people are sick of all the Sonic.exe mods, but this D-side version of the Sonic.exe mod is pretty cool to me, so I want to go over each of the characters here and kind of give you their backstories. Now, the first character that we see on the list is Mighty Zip, aka Mighty the Armadillo, and a lot of people thought that this character was actually Sonic.exe, but he's not. Mighty the Armadillo is actually a fully fleshed out character, and if you remember him, he actually had a whole series where he was captured by Dr. Robotnik, and he had to end up joining forces with Ray the Flying Squirrel and Sonic in order to break out. Now, a fun fact about Mighty the Armadillo is that while he was considered to be a pacifist, meaning that he didn't really want to use any of his abilities offensively to harm people, he is actually very, very strong. When you look Mighty up, it literally says that he's as strong as a mountain and as fast as the wind, and while he may not be on par with Sonic the Hedgehog, he is definitely very close to him in speed and strength. So while a lot of people may believe that Mighty Zip is one of the weakest EXEs, when you look at his just pure power, he's actually closer to the top than a lot of people may want to believe. Now, a lot of people are curious as to why boyfriend and girlfriend are fighting against Mighty Zip, and there actually is a small bit of lore that goes with this. Basically, Mighty Zip actually resided in a pirated copy of a Sonic game, and one day, boyfriend ended up finding this, taking it home and downloading the game for himself. When he downloaded the game, it seems that he actually got sucked into the game just like in the Mario Madness mod, and then he had to face off against Mighty Zip. The next character that we have on our list is going to be Soul Ray, aka Ray the Flying Squirrel, and it's really sad to see him get turned into a zombie because Ray and Mighty were actually best friends. When you look into the backstory of Ray the Flying Squirrel and Mighty the Armadillo, they were literally described as being inseparable. Whenever Mighty would get lost or captured, Ray would always go after him no matter the danger that he would actually have to face himself. Ray was basically to Mighty what Tails is to Sonic the Hedgehog, which is why it's so sad that Mighty would turn him into a zombie. The next person that we see on the list is going to be Fang the Sniper, aka Knack the Weasel. Now, this character is interesting because a lot of people think that he's a squirrel, but he's actually a mix between a jerboa and a wolf. And that is an interesting combination because a jerboa is actually like a little rat-looking creature. I actually had to look that up. And if that wasn't enough, apparently in his lore, he's also a treasure hunter. Now, Knack is also an interesting character because he really had no loyalties in the series. Even when he was kind of on the Sonic team, he ended up betraying them for money, but he's also not really on the same team as like Dr. Robotnik and them as well. He's basically one of those people that only looks out for himself and he just wants to do whatever can get him the most money. So it may be too much to say that he's a villain, but he's definitely not a good character in general, so I don't really feel bad seeing him in this zombie form. The next character that we have on the list is actually kind of sad, and this is going to be Maria Robotnik, and as the name implies, she's obviously a descendant of Dr. Robotnik. I believe specifically she is his cousin, not his daughter like a lot of people believe. Now, her backstory basically says that Maria comes from a long line of brilliant scientists, which makes sense being a part of the Robotnik family, but it also says that she was born and raised on board a spaceship called the Space Colony Ark. Apparently, she wanted to visit Earth, but she ended up getting a disease called neuroimmune deficiency syndrome, which basically was incurable and would inevitably end up with her dying. What I mean by this is that this deficiency syndrome basically has no cure. And if that wasn't bad enough, due to this illness, her body was very weak and frail. So Maria basically always needed somebody there to help her and take care of her because she couldn't really do anything for herself. And if that wasn't bad enough for this little girl, the only thing that kind of helped her condition was the low gravity of outer space, meaning that even if she did make it down to Earth, the gravity of our planet would actually make her condition worse. So it's basically like she just got all the bad hands dealt to her at one time. Now, apparently she had a grandfather named Gerald Robotnik who wanted to kind of help her with her condition, so he went and did a bunch of experiments, and one of them was actually called Project Shadow. And this is actually how Gerald ended up producing Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, a kind of happy fact here is that once Shadow was created, he actually became very close friends with Maria. But of course, with stories like this, nothing good can last, and apparently when this space shuttle was going to shut down, Maria was actually trying to help Shadow escape, and she ended up being killed by a soldier. And if any of you are familiar with Shadow the Hedgehog, you'll know that her death actually strongly influenced the character that he ended up becoming. The next character that we see in the mod is actually called Tenma, and this character is basically like Majin Sonic, but instead of it being Sonic the Hedgehog, obviously it's based off Mighty Zip. And it's kind of a dead giveaway that this guy is supposed to be like Majin Sonic because in the mod you actually see all those faces of him in the background just like Majin Sonic. Next up on our list we have God Z, and this guy is supposed to be like the equivalent of Lord X. You can kind of tell because he actually has a letter carved into his chest, but it's a Z instead of an X. And the other thing that kind of gives it away is that he has the same background as Lord X, just that it looks a bit more decrepit, meaning that everything in the background kind of looks decayed and gone, which is saying a lot because Lord X's background is pretty funky looking as well. The next character that we see here is going to be Mighty JPEG, and this character is obviously supposed to be a play on like Sunky.MPEG. One of the major differences, of course, being the sunglasses, and of course, instead of giving out cereal and milk, he's actually giving out jelly. This next character on the list is probably my favorite aesthetically in this mod, and that's Hyper Knuckles. And if you can't tell, he's basically supposed to be like the D-side version of Fleetway Supersonic, who of course is one of my favorite versions of Sonic, period. If you made it this far into the video, tell me which version of Sonic is your favorite. If I had to do my top 3, it would be definitely Fleetway, then Lord X, and then lastly would be Dark Sonic. The next character on our list has a bit of an inappropriate name. It's called Meaty, C-O-C-K. I think that this name started out as a joke and then they just decided to run with it. If you can't tell, this character is basically the D-side version of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I think they just took the idea of Sonic and went full meme with it. I like how when you look into the backstory of this guy, one of his little fun facts is that he loves pink sauce. The next character that we see on the list here is called Hare, and he's supposed to be the equivalent of Hog the Hedgehog. And I really like this guy because his transformation looks absolutely brutal. Now, when Hare transforms, he turns into this creature that's called the Labyrinth, and I don't know what it's actually supposed to be, but it's definitely not a rabbit. But I have to admit, I really love the design of this creature. The last characters in the mod are Curse Sonic, Devoid Sonic, and Fatal Error, but I feel like I've already covered them enough and I don't want to milk this just to get it to 8 minutes. So thank you for watching. Make sure to check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orseofkorse, and we'll see you tomorrow with another video. Peace.